Welcome to another episode of the Hidden Chasm, which you have to say with that deep voice. Um, we've been exploring the chasm from a lot of different angles. We've spoken to M&A advisors. We've spoken to product executives. We have some technology folks coming up soon as well. We've had the people angle, which has been really interesting. But I think one of the most important elements of any business is revenue. Otherwise, you don't really have a business. And to help explore this particular angle is our friend and actually board advisor. Welcome, Jenna Watson-Brawn. Jenna is a 15-year veteran of business development, sales, and growth coaching. With proven successes leading enterprise sales as a senior executive, she now focuses her energy and experience on helping early stage companies find product market fit, gain traction, and build revenue. She is currently the founder of Jenna Watson-Brawn Consulting, affiliated with several accelerators, and board advisor to several companies, including United FX. Welcome, Jenna.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. Obviously, Jenna, you've been working with us for a while now. Tell us about yourself and how you found yourself on this call with us.
Yeah, and I joined my first startup when I was 19, employee, I think 9 or 10, first salesperson working alongside the CEO, and was there for 10 years. And I joke that, yes, it was one company. It had a couple different names over the years, but it was actually 5 different companies because at every different phase that we were at, it was an entirely different company with entirely different challenges. And executives and board members and all of that evolved greatly. So that was where I really cut my teeth in sales, selling to the likes of SAP, Microsoft, Charles Schwab, really with not much experience and having to be self-taught in a lot of ways. My background's actually in accounting, which I don't think you guys knew. I like numbers. So I've always liked numbers. I like algebra. I don't like bigger things than algebra, but I like you sell this many of this and you get X. That's my perfect kind of math. So that's where I started. And then over time ended up taking over sales, leading customer success. So understanding both pieces of that as well, of not just getting that sale, but keeping that sale and growing that customer, which I think gives me a unique perspective on the importance of good fit customers, the importance of true product market fit. So that's my background. That was the beginning of my enterprise and sales career. And then after that, moved on to a couple other startups, Motive being one of them, in a completely different space, back to the small scale, scrappy team, taking out the garbage, trying to do big deals with the likes of Fortune 10 companies and made some excellent progress there. Building something from nothing and finding people with the problem that you can solve for them that they want solved is the thing I look for in all my work. And so now I help startups and I'm starting to work more with a little bit further companies, a little bit further along, like 5-10 million in revenue.
You started at 19?
Yeah.
I was definitely not thinking about business or anything really at 19.
It was a total fluke, like a kind of friend of a friend. And then I worked alongside the CEO and was like, okay, let's build this. Sales was a natural tendency for me. And I've always been entrepreneurial, like even when I was 18, when social media first came out, even younger than that. And like businesses were trying to figure out, how do you monetize? I officially embarked on, and the first, I think, 5 years of my startup world was bootstrapped. And so we were profitable and we were selling to the likes of SAP and really, really big companies with no marketing, no sales, no VC. So I know it's possible. And I think that's where I can rub some people the wrong way, because I don't believe that you need all the flashy stuff to get off the ground.
So you started with startups, you then ended up in enterprise, and then you're back to startups. Yep. How did the enterprise world influence how you coach startups now?
Yeah, I think with the enterprise world, what you learn is that you have to play by the end customer's rules. And when you're selling to Microsoft and you're selling $2-3 million of business a year, it doesn't really matter what you think or what you want or how you want the sales process to go. It doesn't matter, in the same way that I think some startups think it does. Like, oh, I'm going to build this sales motion and I'm just going to do it. And that's the way it's going to go. It's like, yeah, but that's not how Microsoft buys. So I think it gave me a very deep and thorough understanding of um, meeting customers where they are. And if you're selling to the enterprise and you're trying to do a lightweight PLG motion, but you're selling to a SVP at Microsoft, those two things don't work together. I don't believe in a sales motion for a sales motion. I believe in matching sales motions to the buyer, the way they typically buy, their expectations. So I think it's given me a really big empathy for the buyer.
Mm.
And I think it's dispelled some of the myths of build it and they will come.
You mentioned PLG,
Yes.
doing product-led growth, right?
Yes.
That is a continuing trend even now. And I guess you would say that as much as folks certainly love to jump on the bandwagon and say it could be a panacea for getting your startup off the ground, you would say, hold on, wait 1 second. Let's take a look at exactly who those buyers are first and whether or not PLG is even a fit.
I think they say with PLG, if your product doesn't give them an aha moment within the first 5 minutes of using it, you should not do PLG. Think of Calendly, great example. Put your credit card in, sign up, freemium, whatever, however you've come to Calendly, free trial. You try it, you send out your first meeting. You're like, oh my gosh, someone booked a meeting. I didn't have to go back and forth. That's incredible. There wasn't a stakeholder group to decide whether Calendly is the right fit. It didn't integrate with your architecture. It didn't need a security review. But then when people say, oh, I'm going to take this highly specialized enterprise security product and put it with PLG, it's like, well, that's not how the CISO buys. A, there's no aha moment in 5 minutes. B, the price point is such that they're not entering their credit card information. And C, that's not how this purchase gets made. It's not an individual user using an individual tool. So of course there's exceptions to everything, but so often I see founders say, oh, I like this sales process or I like this market. I'm going to go after it. But completely ignoring who actually wants the product, who has the demand to solve the problem, and how do they typically buy? How do they typically interact with vendors and the realities of the product you're selling?
Are there other common misconceptions and challenges you see early stage companies face pretty often?
One of the big misconceptions is around I just need to show you the product. I'm going to do a demo and I'm just going to show you the product and then that will happen. And it depends on the vertical and the industry and the segment, all of those things of what you're selling into, because there are some products that the sales cycle is 1 call, 2 calls, 3 days. But in most cases, the discovery demo portion is really about solving problems. And you go back to the, old adage of bad salespeople just showing you every feature when you care about one feature. And if you don't know what that one feature is because you didn't ask the right questions, well, you've just wasted 45 minutes for someone because they saw 90% of the things they didn't need to see. And then they, somewhere in there, you kind of skimmed over the one thing they really care about. So I think that's one of them is that, oh, I'm just going to show you the product and that's it. And it's like, no, you actually need to understand this individual buyer, this individual organization, their specific needs. Again, that varies segment to segment because you may have a very homogeneous customer base, in which case there's more things you can rely upon between conversations. The other that I would say is that the founder can pass it off. I see it all the time. Oh, I'm going to hire sales help. And I'm going to hire sales help that is going to be a salesperson for me. I've never seen it succeed, both in startups I've worked with and in startups that I've seen from afar. Hiring a salesperson too early usually does far more harm than good. And until you know what works, you cannot hire someone to do it for you. If you have a founder, like a co-founder that is a sales expert, that's different. But if that person is not part of your founding team, you see it all the time. You hire an SDR or you hire an account executive, but you don't know what works. So you're kind of trying to coach this person to figure out what could work in a sales motion. And I've just seen it fail 10 times out of 10 times. I'm yet to see that succeed before you probably, I would say until you have 10 happy customers, maybe 5 to 10 happy customers.